What is the highest burst damage we can do in Silksong? Let's find out. I tested every tool, silk skill and needle strike in Silksong to determine the absolute best 7 from each of these categories. But before we go deeper, I want to explain how I'm defining burst damage and how we're going to measure it. First, I slow down the game speed to 10% speed. From there, I start the timer from the very first frame of the attack animation, stopping the timer either when Hornet accepts another attack input, indicating the previous attack is completely over, or when the last tick of significant damage has gone through. We then take this time, check how much damage has been dealt, and bammo! We now have the amount of burst DPS for each move. We will be first measuring damage with nothing equipped, and then once more with a maximum damage build. But let's make this a little more interesting. We're gonna form 3 teams to see which category comes out on top. We're gonna give each team the 7 highest performing moves, and at the end, whichever team has the most combined DPS between their moves will be the ultimate winner. Now let's introduce our teams. Our very first team is none other than Team Architect. This team will be using red tools. Each tool will be allowed 3 back-to-back uses when it makes sense to do so. Team Architect's roster is filled with the following red tools: Delver's Drill, Pin Pillow, Sting Shard, Threefold Pin, Curve Sickle, Vault Vessel, and Conch Cutter. Our next team is none other than Team Weaver. This team will be representing the Silk skills. Those are of course Silk Spear, Thread Storm, Cross Stitch, Sharp Dart, Rune Rage, and Pale Nails. And to make up the 7th member, we also have the Witchbind. Not exactly a Silk skill per se, but a decent fit nonetheless. And finally, our last team is Team Pinstress. This team will consist of all 7 crests' respective needle strike attacks. That of course includes the Hunter crest, the Reaper crest, the Wanderer crest, the Beast crest, the Architect crest, the Witch crest, and the Shaman crest. Since a needle strike can be charged while waiting for a boss to get in range, we'll be excluding the charge time and only starting from the instance the actual strike commences. And with the introductions out of the way, let me know in the comments which team you think will deal the highest total burst DPS, and also let me know which single attack will be the overall winner. We're going to be starting from the weakest move of each team and proceed all the way to the strongest. I'll show the stats of the naked build in the corner, however we will be focusing our attention on the full damage builds for the contest. And now, without further ado, Team Architect is going to get us started with their very first entry. And that one is going to be the Threefold Pin. And that manages to do 153 damage over 1.75 seconds for a respectable 87.43 DPS. And to put that into context, the maxed out Hunter Needle does around 51 DPS with no focus stacks. Now let's see what Team Weaver answers with. And it looks like it's going to be the Rune Rage skill. With 4 hits, Rune Rage manages to hit for 131 damage over a painfully long 2.48 seconds, which is only going to get them to 52.82 DPS. Already quite a bit behind Team Architect. But can Team Pinstress do a bit better? The needle strike of choice is going to be the Shaman strike, and it seems to have hit for 74 damage in 0.883 seconds, a burst DPS of 83.81, only slightly behind Team Architect. Now on to the next heat. Team Architect is back, this time with the Delver's Drill. Now this is a powerful tool, however it doesn't really get much benefit from Quicksling or even the Polyp Pouch. It managed to do 84 damage over 0.96 seconds, only 0.7 DPS more than the Threefold Pin at 87.5 DPS. And we move along now to Team Weaver's Cross Stitch. 109 damage in 0.92 seconds. That will make it 118.48 DPS. Team Pinstress is up next with the Wanderer Strike, and that is going to get us to 106 damage in 1.03 seconds, or 102.61 burst DPS. And with that, Team Pinstress takes the lead at 186.42 total DPS, with both Team Weaver and Team Architect close behind. Jumping into round 3, we have the Conch Cutter, and that one manages to do 248 damage in 1.93 seconds for 128.5 DPS. Team Weaver's third round offering is going to be Threadstorm. Last patch unfortunately gutted the extended version of this, so much that it can basically be ignored for anything damage related. But we'll be taking a look how the short cast goes, and that's 119 damage in 0.95 seconds, meaning 125.26 burst DPS. But does the Reaper Needle Strike have what it takes to blow past both? and that'll be 117 damage in 1.06 seconds. That'll add up to 109.76 DPS. A respectable number, however, not nearly enough to keep the lead against Team Architect. And that will take us straight into round 4. Stingshard is taking the stage first, and it is a little hard to angle the double cast from the quick sling, but it can be done. And it drops a whopping 458 damage over 3.02 seconds, which translates to 151.66 DPS, further strengthening Team Architect's lead. Up next we have the Pale Nails skill, and a triple cast of that is going to hit for 330 damage over 2.5 seconds, making it 132 DPS, putting Team Architect and Team Weaver incredibly close. And finally, Team Pinstress's is going to be the Architect Crest Needle Strike. And there we are, 121 damage in 0.983 seconds, making it 123.09 DPS. And Team Architect manages to hold on to their lead. Round 5 begins, and now we're going to see the third best offering for each team. And we'll be starting the round with the Curve Sickle. This one's a bit tricky to land perfectly, but 3 uses is going to be hitting for 300 damage in 1.95 seconds, resulting in 153.85 DPS. Team Weaver's gonna take a swing at it with their fill-in move, Witchbind. This is one of the other rare moves that causes hit pause each time the roots hit their target, so we will be deducting a bit of time off to compensate. With that accounted for, we're hitting for 114 damage over 0.722 seconds, or 157.89 DPS, and this is slightly higher DPS than the build using the multi-bind. And finally, we'll be taking a look at the Beast Crest Needle Strike as the last move of the round. Once all the buffs come through, that one will be hitting for a whopping 130 damage in 1.03 seconds for 125.85 DPS. Unfortunately for Team Pinstress and Team Weaver, neither of them had enough to overtake Team Architect as it starts to build a bit of a lead on the competition. But let's see if that can be changed in round 6. Starting off with one of my favorites, the Pimpillo. 1.78 seconds later, Zango is short 309 health, meaning a burst DPS of 173.6. And just a little fun fact, this one would actually have the highest tool DPS for the naked build at 156.12. Up next is Silk Spear. This skill can be cancelled early if it hits a wall, significantly reducing the animation time. And with that, it manages to do 104 damage in 0.6 seconds, meaning 173.33 DPS. Up next is the Hunter's Crest Needle Strike, with a fully stacked damage buff and the build to support it, of course. And all of that is going to get us 139 damage in 0.88 seconds for 157.95 DPS. Not bad, but the last Needle Strike left is going to have to do some heavy lifting if it wants to take the #1 spot. And now for the final round. With Team Architect only 22 DPS ahead, Team Silk still have a chance to take the win. Although at this point, it would probably take a game-breaking bug for Team Pinstress to have any hope of coming back. In the last round, we'll be going in reverse order just to make it a little more interesting. Now, let's jump in with Team Pinstress. Their last hope is resting with the Witchcrest Needle Strike, and that's going to be 192 damage in 1.1 seconds. That is 174.55 DPS. A huge enough number on its own, but unfortunately, that all but locks Team Needle Strike out of any hopes of getting first place. Now let's move on to Team Weaver and see if they can fare any better. Sharp Dart will be taking the place of Team Weaver's highest DPS move, and to be specific, this attempt will be making use of the wall cancel to end the skill's animation early, and that is going to bag them 101 damage over 0.51 seconds for a DPS of 198.04. That's going to give Team Weaver the lead for the moment, but will they manage to keep it after Team Architect shows their final tool? And now, the final red tool and the highest burst DPS potential of all of the red tools, it's gonna be the Vault Vessel. Now this one comes in 2 versions. The staked version, as we can see here, is doing 491 damage, which is great, although it does take a huge 4.33 seconds to do it, which when you do the math is only 113 DPS. The bowler version, however, is the version that will be taking the #1 spot. Now given it would be insanely hard to pull this off in any real combat scenario due to the way the bowler bounces, but in this controlled environment, let's take a look at what it can do. 506 damage in 1.88 seconds. That is a monstrous 269.15 DPS, taking Team Architect's already guaranteed victory and turning it into a bit of a humiliation for the other teams. And with that, Team Architect is our ultimate undisputed winner. Now don't click off yet because we're not quite done. Let's take a look at some of the data a bit closer. Totaling all the DPS from the base naked builds instead of using the maximum damage builds, this is how our standings would look. And yep, the gap between Team Architect and the other two teams becomes even bigger. This isn't at all surprising when you consider the two main damage boosting methods for tools. The poison from pull-up pouch is a few ticks of poison damage, and in a burst situation like this, it's getting its timer reset a lot, but since it's all in rapid succession, it doesn't result in many more ticks of damage. And the other damage boosting tool is the quick sling. Sure, this one lets you throw twice as many tools per button press, however, it also takes longer to throw than throwing a single projectile, meaning while it's still an overall DPS increase, it's largely tempered by the additional time it takes. And now let's take a quick look at each move on an individual basis. This is the top 10 performing moves overall for the max damage builds. And here's that same list again, using only the base damage numbers. But there is one move I didn't include in any of these three teams, and that is because it was so busted that it would guarantee a win for whatever team I placed it on. And that of course is the Wanderer's Crest critical hit. Yep, it's back again. The Wanderer's Crest needle attack only takes 0.3 seconds to do, and once you buff this thing up as much as possible, it can deal up to 141 damage. That maths out to an absolutely stupid 470 burst DPS. And even with just nothing equipped and no buffs active, the crit would still be hitting 210 burst DPS. But anyway, I hope you found this video interesting. If you'd like to support the creation of more videos like this one, consider hitting the join button down below. Otherwise, just liking and commenting your thoughts will go a long way to help out with the algorithm. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.